So, welcome back to Time. Surprisingly, again, today's guest is Sammy. It's Sunday, January 26th, 2025 at 4:13 p.m. in Calgary. Before we start today, Sammy has some corrections he'd like made about things that I'm assuming you said in the last episode.
Correct.
What do you got?
Well, there's a couple of corrections which actually your mom helped me to figure out, because I think I gave you some wrong information about your sport adventures or sport-related adventures back in Soviet Union.
That's a nice way to say that Dina said you're wrong, fix it.
That's about right. I'm trying to be polite.
No, there's no need.
Okay.
There's no need. Go for it. All right. What do we got?
Anyways, just the timeline I mentioned was not correct. Is not correct. I believe both your exposure to swimming and gymnastics happened once you went to school. I believe swimming came first because the school mom working in the school you went to with her was affiliated with some swimming association or pool, whatever you call it. So she managed to get you into a swimming program, the same as some other classes in her school went to. And after that, probably a couple of months after, that's when scouts for gymnastics came in to check you guys out in school, and you've been selected.
Well, yeah, that part I remember. I remember the scouts coming. So by school, you mean grade 1?
Yes.
So I remember them coming into grade 1 and choosing me for gymnastics. So anyone at home listening to this, keeping track of the specifics of when I started swimming and gymnastics, you can adjust your timelines accordingly, because I know it's probably very important. Whether I was
your mom
in grade
thinks it
1
was.
or whether I was before grade 1. All right.
No, definitely not before grade 1.
Well, listen, the invitation to Dina is still open to come on this podcast, and hopefully she'll listen to this. Mom, the invitation is open. Come hang out. We'll have a good chat. I'm sure all the listeners would really enjoy that. Anyway, okay, so that's one correction, or is there more?
I believe that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that sorted. All right.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So last time we talked a lot about what happened in our vacation in '78 in the Crimean Peninsula, and kind of like the seeds that got you and Mom thinking about maybe getting out of the USSR. And I'm curious, maybe that's where we can pick up today. So we got back from vacation, summer of '78.
Yep.
And then what was life like the rest of that year, if you remember, and what kind of got you guys to the point where you actively started talking about it and then trying to figure out what the process was?
Well, we didn't talk about it much before the summer vacation, but actually it was kind of in the back of our minds. The main obstacle, or one of the main obstacles, was a financial part, because we really did not have any money to be able to get out, because there was a lot of things we had to pay for. And I believe when you and Mom went to Gomel after our summer vacation at Black Sea, that conversation took place there as well, and one of her aunts said, if it's only money, your mom will help you out. And that was one obstacle out of our way.
So wait a sec. After that trip to the Crimean Peninsula, you went back to Leningrad.
Yes.
And Mom and I went to Gomel.
Correct.
And one of the aunts, one of Mom's aunts, my great aunts.
Yes.
Mura.
No, I believe it was Sima Davidovna.
So she suggested that if money is an issue, that Rosa,
Yes.
my grandma,
Yes.
would help us out.
Yes.
Okay.
So that took one of the obstacles out. Apparently, there's a lot
So wait,
of discussions.
So did Mom have a conversation
I presume so.
Again, we need you on this podcast, Mom, so we can get to the bottom of this stuff.
Yes, but I think it wasn't probably discussed in actual dollars and cents or rubles and kopecks, but the intention was that they could help. She could help us.
So how did you guys know that money would be an issue? You heard how much it would cost. So you must have known part of the process, or at least part of the cost. Like, what did you know at that point?
Well, at that point, I knew that if we have to leave, we have to pay a lot of money for the owner to surrender our passports. And that cost was about 3.5 months salary for myself, and even more that for your mom, which we obviously didn't have any free money to do it with.
Was that kind of the beginning cost of the process, or would that be the whole cost of the
Well, there was another
procedure?
cost. There was another cost involved. We had to buy the plane tickets, again, which was not cheap, and again, which we didn't have much of money for. And I know there was a kind of a handwritten step-by-step process, which was actually passed from hand to hand. It wasn't really official, but it was coming from the people who already left, who went through that stuff. It was
kind of a cheat sheet but like an underground sort of cheat sheet that you can get your hands on.
Yes, and
Okay.
it was basically described step by step what needs to be done and how it needs to be done and when.
So was it advertised, or was it public knowledge as far as the government was concerned? Like, did the government not want this cheat sheet out there? Like, did you guys have to sneakily find it, or is it pretty common knowledge that it was, or that that list of procedures existed? Do you remember?
I don't remember it was being hard to get by at the time. We did manage it. Government control of it was not really an issue at the time. We may or may not have, most likely we did know it does exist, but for them it really made no difference. As long as the gate was open, it was fine.
So how did you find out that it existed? Just talking to people?
Yeah, just talking to people. I can't even remember who did we get it from, but we did get it. It might be, I'm just guessing right now, it might be received a copy of it from a person who eventually sent us an invitation, which started the whole process. Because before you apply, before you even start any paperwork, you had to get an official notarized invitation from your so-called relatives in Israel.
Right. Only Israel.
Only Israel, because
But we had none at that point.
we didn't have anything. And I believe I know who got it for us, actually. My good old girlfriend, whatever you call her, she left about 2 years before us, and her mom was still in Leningrad. So I stayed in touch with her.
So she left for where?
She left to U.S.
Okay.
Yeah,
To California.
Yeah, she moved to California, to San Jose. But she left the same as everybody else, with invitation from Israel, obviously. And the way it worked, with people who were leaving, some of them have a list of names of friends or relatives or whoever who also would like to get an invitation.
So did we pretend that your ex-girlfriend was in Israel and was family and was giving us an invitation?
No.
No.
No. The only reason, because I helped her mom to pack when she was leaving. And
Sorry, you helped her mother pack? Where was?
Yes.
I thought she was in Leningrad.
Yes, in Leningrad.
Where was the mom leaving to?
She wanted she went to join her daughter in San Jose.
Okay. So she left the Soviet Union before we did. The mother.
Yes, she did.
Okay, and you helped her pack.
Yeah, you helped her pack, and she had I asked her to get an invitation for us, because it was the only way. Because as soon as people like that left Soviet Union, when we ended up in Vienna, they could give a list of names of some information to either HIAS or any Jewish agency who was dealing with.
Sorry, HIAS.
Yes.
That's an acronym.
Yes.
HIAS.
Yes.
And do you remember what that stands for? Did we go over this before?
I believe it's something to do with him. No, I can't really remember.
All right, we'll let people figure that out on their own. HIAS.
Yes.
That was the English acronym.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so as soon as that list of people who would like to get an invitation was in their hands, that was it.
So you got a formal invitation from your friend in California.
Not friend in California, it came from Israel. The invitation had to come from Israel, from your lost.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. So why did you bring up your friend from California?
Because her mom is the person who made it's possible to pass our information to HIAS.
Okay, so the mom and the ex-girlfriend passed on the info so you could get some sort of air quote invitation coming from Israel that would have been treated as official by the Soviets.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so it was just like a way to get what they needed.
Yes, to get them official excuse to accept my application.
Got it. So, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so...
And I believe that the list of things to do, step-by-step stuff, I probably most likely got it from her. But again, your mom may correct me down the road.
Again, Mom, come on to time. We need to record an episode together. Okay, so we come back from Gourmet, late 78.
Yes.
Well, not like fall 78, late summer.
End of August, I believe.
Right, because it's back to school time.
Correct.
Mom was a teacher. I was going into grade one at that time.
Yes.
Okay, so then what was that summer, fall like after we came back?
Fall, we kept talking about it. I believe her mom of that girl who...
Do you remember her name?
Rita Moiseyevna, I believe.
Rita was the mom, and the ex-girlfriend was?
Natasha,
and Rita was her mom. Okay,
correct.
So you're still in touch with Rita?
Well, I was in touch with her until she left.
And when did she leave?
My guess is she probably left at the end of the summer, no, a little bit later. I think she left in the fall of 78.
Okay.
And that was started when you and Mom came back from Gomel.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it, and she said that if we decide to do it, money-wise, we would need some help. We will get some help from her family, from her mom.
Okay.
So that took one thing out of the question, and we started to basically trying to figure out our finances, the rest of it, but we didn't do much because in order to start the process itself, we had to put an application in and get it accepted. And we couldn't do that until we get an invitation.
So when did the invitation come in?
I remember exactly when it came in.
Tell me.
December 31st, 1978.
The last day of the New Year's Eve?
Yes.
1978. That's when the invitation, what form did it come in? A letter?
It came in a mailbox, yes.
So you got a letter from Israel?
Yes. With official invitation, notarized, stamped. And
do you have a copy of it?
No.
Somewhere? No? Did you have to give it to the Soviets?
Yes. I had to attach it to my application.
Got it. Okay.
And that was interesting because we were actually going to the New Year party.
Mm-hmm.
You were staying home by yourself.
What?
Yes. Well, our next door neighbor was looking for after
Call
you.
child services.
Well, if you wanted to call child services,
no child
in
services,
Russia, you'd be in a long hold.
You'd be on hold a while? Okay. Can we put a pause on that for a second? We're going to pick up New Year's Eve. What I just remembered, and I don't recall if we talked about this in previous episodes, but did we talk about the time that Mom was a counselor at a summer camp when I was much younger?
I believe we did, but very briefly. Yeah, she was...
So what year would that have been? Because it just reminded me of that. Because by then, so that would have happened a couple of years at least before 78.
Yes, you were in kindergarten at the time.
Okay.
Mom's was already working in school.
We did talk about it because I recalled when you came to visit for a bit and you brought some wobla.
Yes.
And we had okay. So we talked about that already. Apologies to the listeners who know this story already. But okay, so let's move on. New Year's Eve, 1978. You guys were leaving me at home. You're going to go party. Do you remember who with, where?
Well, but one of people at that party was our friend who right now lives in Israel, Slava, his wife, and we came to visit some people which I don't think we knew before. That was a friend of Slava. And when we walked out of the door, looked at the mailbox, grabbed that invitation, put it in our pocket, and went to celebrate New Year.
So I have some old black and white photos of you guys partying in Russia.
That was not that part. That was
a wedding. That was a wedding party of some sort.
There was some party in our place, but it was not that one.
Because I was thinking it would be. I'm gonna for the cover for this episode we're recording now. I'm gonna use some old photos, so I'll figure that out after.
Okay.
It'll be a surprise for all the listeners, I'm sure. Okay, so you didn't even read it. You just put it in your pocket and went to the party?
No, we opened an envelope because we need to see what's in it.
So how, were you super excited? Were you scared? Do you remember? Because it must have been a lot of emotions. Were you sure you were going to get this letter?
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I wasn't sure.
So it was a bit of a surprise that it showed up.
It was a surprise, it was excitement, and it was apprehension to a certain point, because now I knew that we have to go to the next step, which is start jumping through quadrillion of hoops which the system created for us. And at the same time, it was a beginning of a step which I was quite a bit apprehensive about, because we have no idea what will wait us at the end of that road, obviously.
So do you recall if you told your friends at the party about this, or is this something you kind of kept to yourselves at that point, or did friends know that you were applying? Do you remember?
No, I don't believe so, because back then it was not really advisable to advertise loudly. I mean, people talk to friends, obviously, but...
So who else would have known? Before you got the letter, who else would have known that you guys started the process?
Just probably mom's family.
Just family?
Yeah.
So you never told your dad?
No.
Yuri?
No.
Because you knew that he wouldn't approve?
He wouldn't be very excited about it, I know. He was kind of an old school communist.
Okay.
Not necessarily by his political affiliation, but just because it was how it was done. And he grew up in an environment, as you remember, which actually helped him to get along the line like everybody else.
Was it, so for him, and I'm sure it's much more complicated than this, was it a bit of Stockholm syndrome where he was in the system and went through the wars and just kind of relegated himself to whatever the powers that be are? Was it just his way of coping?
Well, I think it could be a little bit of both, but he just went with what mainstream majority of people went through in order to just move on with your life.
So what did he think of himself being a Jew? Or did that not even cross his mind? Was that really part of his life or not really?
It was part of his life because, from childhood, he even went to a Jewish school of that time.
Right. And you told me nationality or whatever was part of your papers.
Yes.
So his internal passport in the Soviet Union would have said that. So,
yes.
So it would have been part of his life. But yet was life good for him after World War II?
Well, as good as it could get, because going back to the time, I remember he had a hard time finding a job because he had really no profession. Because he was drafted to the army at a young age and he went through 2 wars, never really managed to get any profession, any education, except that had a school which he went through for 4 years. Probably he had another 3 years in school, but that was extent of his education because he had to basically manage to support himself somehow.
So did you and him talk about the Soviet Union or politics or just philosophical things in general?
Not really, because daily life was not really beneficial for talking about stuff like that. As far as the politics go, we only had one opinion, one line. We didn't have any other information at the time.
Right, but I mean, like
he was not
in private.
No, he was not. See, his main thing he was keep saying every so often: as long as there's no war, we're doing okay.
The wars had such an effect on him. That was kind of his measuring stick and his base for success in life. As long as there's no war.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Those two wars were not ideal for the typical Russian.
Yeah, and it's not just him. Most of people I know who went through the war, participated in it, practically never talk about what we went through, how it affected them. We just been happy or lucky to be alive and put it behind them.
Okay.
Yeah, we went through a lot of suffering and deaths and stuff like that. The war is not something we ever talk about too much.
Okay, so you kept it from him on purpose because you knew it wouldn't be a pleasant conversation for anybody.
Yes.
But you knew you'd eventually have to tell him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, until we get an invitation, we didn't really talk to anybody. Once I put the documents in, I had to talk to him when I put an application in.
Because he had to be one of the signatures on the document?
One of the things which we had to do to satisfy the authorities was to get a signed document from him that he has no expectation of me supporting him at his older age.
Right. So you would have been 34 at the time?
At the time I was 32 actually.
Okay, and how old would Yuri have been at the time?
He was born in 1913, so in 78 he would be 65.
Okay.
He just retired, but he kept working. Well, he retired a few years before it because I think retirement age was 60. But he was still working and getting his salary plus full-time pension. That's the only time he actually got more or less financially stable.
And how was his health at the time?
Health was fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, he had no health issues at the time.
And he lived in a different part of Leningrad?
Yes, he did, because he was married to Maria Yakovlevna, if you remember her.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a room in some other place in a different part of the city.
Do you remember which part?
Yeah, Petrogradskaya Strana.
That is a community or a part of town?
No, it's an area of town. Yeah, it's part of town.
Petrogradskaya Strana,
Yeah.
which means the Petrograd side.
Yes.
Okay. North?
Looking
Do you
at the
remember?
map, I believe it was north from Neva River.
Okay.
But there's, the city was big and there's a lot of different areas called different names.
I remember visiting their apartment a few times. I
Yes.
have memories of hanging out with them. I have memories of Yuri having a water carbonator.
Yes.
That's one of my memories. And he was very proud of it. And he'd make me carbonated water, basically like very flavorless, but just
bubbly.
Газированная вода.
Yeah, just bubbly.
Yeah, like bubbly, but with even less flavor than literally carbonated water.
Yes.
And I remember it was quite a novelty in the Soviet Union.
It was.
Because pop was not a thing. There
No.
was no pop. There were no candy bars.
No, there was some candies Soviet made, but nothing
Right,
like
but nothing.
we had. No.
Yeah, like we couldn't get a Snickers.
No.
Okay. All right. So you kept it from Yuri. You went to your party. Do you remember the party at all? Did you and Dina have some drinks to celebrate the first
Yes,
step?
yes, we did. And strangely enough, every New Year party had some silly traditions. This year was you write your wish on a piece of paper, you burn it, put it in your wine glass and drink it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a little piece of paper, and you put the ashes in your wine glass.
Yes.
And you guys had wine.
Yes.
Okay.
Or probably something stronger than that. I don't think it was wine.
Okay.
And I remember what I wrote down.
What'd you write?
I wrote down my wish for New Year to leave and to find a job.
Okay.
No, not exactly find a job, to leave and to settle down.
To leave and to settle down. So you accomplished the leave, and we showed up. So this was your wish for 79.
Yes.
And we left in 79, and we got to Canada in 79
Mm-hmm.
in December.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you actually found a job by the end of December, or was it January?
No,
of
it was I found a job at the end of it wasn't end of December, back when Christmas time everything was closed.
Okay, so it was the
The
beginning
first
of 80.
first 2 working days of New Year, January of 1980.
Okay. Well, I think you accomplished both of those things in that year.
Yes, I did. So that tradition actually paid off.
Okay, we should resurrect that. It seems to have worked. Do you remember what Mom wrote down?
I do not, because it was supposed to be
A secret.
something
wouldn't come true.
you don't scream loud about.
Right. Mom, if you're listening to this, we need to get you again on the microphone so you could tell me what you wrote down if you can remember. All right, so you guys are both feeling pretty good, I guess, at that time.
Well, good and apprehensive at the same time, because, that kind of a new window open, but I couldn't see, I did not know what awaits us on our side. And I knew how many hoops we have to jump through, and it was frightening,
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
Do you remember whose house you went to? Was it a house party?
Well, it was not house, it was apartment.
Sure, it was
Yeah.
an apartment party.
I don't remember who it was.
No?
Yeah, it was somebody I don't think we ever met before, but
Do you remember, other than the drinking and the burning of the notes, do you remember food? Do you remember music? Do you remember anything?
I don't remember food. I know it was something, obviously, but I can't remember what it was.
Do you remember anything that happened during the party? Anything silly, or is it your
Not much. We celebrated New Year, had some drinks, some food, and when we actually walked home in the winter time. It was pretty cold, but it was fine. Okay. We've been walking home because actually all the transport was already shut down.
What would have been the transport options at that point?
Taxi. Or subway if we live any close to the subway station, which I don't think this one was.
Okay.
There was a lot of public transportation. I think some of it might still be available, but we decided to walk home.
All right.
And
that sounds like a very interesting New Year's celebration.
It was.
Given all the stuff that was going on in your heads.
Yeah, it was. And we came home. You were peacefully sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything was fine on your end.
All right. Let's take another quick tangent. I got a question for you. Batkovich.
Mm-hmm.
That is the name you've been calling me since I could remember, like a pet name.
Yes.
What the heck does it mean?
What it means, if you know your name is every Russian name, has your first name and patronymic and a family name.
Ilya Samuilovich Negilev.
Yeah. So patronymic is the name of your father, which could be Batka. Batka is kind of mixed, either Ukrainian or Belarusian word for father, and that's where it came from. Batkovich basically replacing your patronymic.
So where did that come from?
I have no idea. I must have read something like that somewhere, or just popped in my head one time, and it just stuck.
Yeah, because I've been trying, because I call Ramon Muchacho. And I have no idea when I started, but it was a long time ago, because I believe one of the older videos from when he was 1 or 2 or 3 years old is titled Muchacho. or a photo set from back then, from, 10, 11, 12 years ago. So it's been a while, but I have no clue why I started calling him muchacho, and I still call him that to this day.
Yeah,
I guess
know.
I guess that's his Batkovich.
Probably, but no, mine is more related to the actual.
No, but I mean, that's what you call me.
Yeah.
That's what you call me when you didn't call me by my name.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what did you call me? Because I remember Mom calling me Ilyucha.
Ilyusha.
But she would call me Ilyucha.
I don't think so.
Yes, a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but she needs to confirm that.
Again, just yet one more reason. You need to make sure she listens to this episode. Mom, you got to get on the microphone and we'll have a chat. Okay. But what did you call me? Like, you called me Ilyusha or Ilya.
Yeah, either one or another.
Right. Yeah. Mom would call me Ilyucha. I remember that. And she called me that even here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what because she never called me Batkovich, ever.
No.
Ever.
No, she never did.
Yeah.
That was my invention.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, I still not sure what brought it up, but I must have read it somewhere, that relation between patronymic and that word Batka, which means father.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me that completely unrelated tangent. All right, so are we done with 78? Should we move on to 79?
Yes, 78 is done.
Okay, good. Let's put a bow on it. Okay, so 79, January, February, March, I'm in school.
Yes, you are. You're in school. You're in. We took you to move you to a different school after we got the application. You stopped going to mom's school because moms had to quit.
So I don't remember going to mom's school. I only remember going to the school that was on the same block.
Yeah, that happened after New Year.
Okay, so I went for a few months to mom's school.
Yes.
I don't remember that at all, but I remember the school that was on the block because that's where I remember learning how to write cursive. I remember they wouldn't let me, they started all the kids on graph paper, and they wouldn't let you switch to lined paper, which was the next step up until you could prove, until you can get good at writing cursive.
Yeah.
So I remember that from grade 1. And I also remember one of the first things I learned was how wonderful Lenin was. I will never forget that. It was...
You and me went through the same...
Yeah. So I remember...
Indoctrination, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah, they never mentioned of all the murdering and all the other stuff. But that's... We don't need to get into that. So, yeah, but I love the graph paper. I love graph paper. I didn't want to switch to lined paper. I hated the lined paper. But they needed you to write exactly how they wanted. You couldn't put your own flair into it. It had to be the exact proper way of doing it. And I remember I was one of the last kids to be allowed to switch to lined paper because I just wouldn't follow instructions or something.
You know what? I think you took after me because I was in exactly the same spot when I went to school. But they requested that everybody writes the same way, the same letter, which look maybe not 100%, but 90% identical.
It had to be almost perfect. I remember.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember thinking, look at this. This is what you want me to write. This is what I wrote. It's pretty darn close. They're like, nope, give me 100 more.
Yes.
Right? And it took days and days and days.
We both went through the same, stuff.
Yeah, and then that's the new school. I didn't realize that. I thought I started grade 1 there. I have vague memories of my teacher, partially because there's a picture of her in our class photo.
We couldn't start you in any other school because at that time we both were working.
Right.
Because
so that's
you
why
had
I started
to stay with mom. Yes.
That's why I started at mom's school.
Yeah, and once we decided to put our application in, she had to quit her job. And when she was at home, so we could put you into a school across the street.
Okay. So I literally only spent 3 months at that school across the street?
Something like that.
And 3 or 4 months at mom's school?
Yes, September, October, November, and part of December, I believe, in mom's school. Okay. And when from January, I believe you went to that school.
Until we left.
Until we left. And I think you've been in school for almost until the time which we had to go.
Yeah, and so you never told me anything. Obviously, you didn't tell me we're going anywhere.
Well, we did tell you because we supposedly you knew what we're going through stuff, but we did not tell you where we're going, so you
Right.
won't.
I think I was under the impression we're going on vacation.
Okay, maybe because we've been. Our official story was that we actually moving to a different city.
Okay, because you never told me different city. At least I don't remember thinking that. I remember thinking we're going on vacation.
Yeah, we probably did not keep you 100% advised on what was.
Yeah, of course. I was in grade 1, and
Yeah.
so was part of not telling me kind of for my own safety in case I started telling people at school and
It's not for your, well, part of it, it's not just safety, but if you start talking about in school when it goes up the chain to the teachers, to the blah, 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 and you might be treated differently with a little bit more contempt, because back when living in Soviet Union were considered not really,
mutiny,
well,
fleeing
mutiny
the
or
ship.
rebellion or whatever you call it. Treachery.
Rebelling against the one true way of conducting
Yeah,
life.
yeah, trying to live a paradise, socialist paradise, which was not understandable to many people. Why
Right.
would you?
Why would you leave perfection?
Yes.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so
No, we kept you in the dark as much as we can on our actual purpose.
okay. So I spent the first part of 79 learning how to write properly and learning about how great Lenin was and smashing up sinks in bathrooms.
Yep.
And was I still doing gymnastics and swimming at that point?
I don't believe so.
Well, no, because I think that's the school they came to and said, you're doing gymnastics. That's, if I remember, that's the school.
Well, with something, yeah, you could be right. With something, again, I have to get a second opinion.
Well, that's all right. We don't need to get to the precise bottom of it.
Yeah,
but also my memories could be completely off because I was in grade 1. You know
it
what I
could
mean?
be,
And I
but
don't even
it could be
remember.
right.
And I don't remember being in mum school at all. And I was there for 3-4 months. I remember visiting there when I was in kindergarten.
Yes.
I remember visiting mum school.
Yeah.
But I don't remember being a student at mum school.
Yeah, you had to be because there's no other way.
No, I believe you. I just don't remember, which just shows the Swiss cheese nature of my memory from back then.
It could be Swiss cheese of my memory as well. So we need to clarify that. That could be.
Okay. All right. So we covered Batkovich. We covered the beginning of 79. So then, like, what were some of the other big hurdles that you had to go through to move the application along? And at what point did you know exit day? When did you figure that out?
Well, the exit day was given on a very short notice because when we put an application in, we received the list of things also what needed to be done to make application valid. So we need a lot of things. We need characteristics from place of work, something else, and we need a signed affidavit from our parents, from my father, saying that they have no objections. And as a matter of fact, for my father, it took a couple of days too, because when I first told him about it, he said no.
Really?
Yes.
Did it take a couple of days of you talking to him, or you just left him alone to think about it?
No, I believe he got some influence from his wife.
Okay.
And he might have changed his mind as well. I mean, his first reaction obviously was negative. Now, he changed his mind pretty quickly, which I was quite grateful.
Good. I'm quite grateful as well. I didn't know what that process was like. So how much notice did you actually get? Like you said, short notice. What are we talking? Days? Couple of weeks?
Well, we received final approval. We had to go to the AVIR a few times. It's also abbreviation. It's Отдел Viz and Immigration something.
Some sort of Soviet
It's a Soviet
bureaucracy
which dealt with application for people like myself. There were also application people who wanted to go out for a tour with a group to out of a country, stuff like that. So we basically deal with exit visas and permits for exit visas.
So, and like temporary or permanent leaving
Yes.
the border.
Yes.
Okay. Crossing the border. Okay.
So we finally, when I got all our papers together, we put an original application first with invitation from Israel, which I had some trouble with, because when you fill out the application, it's asking you the first name of a person and the last name of a person who calls you. I had no idea which name was first, which name was what.
Right, because was it some sort of Hebrew name or what was
Well,
it?
it was in English actually, but it was a Hebrew name, obviously.
Oh, so speaking of which, the only one of us who knew any English at that point was Mom.
Yes.
And her English was not great. It was just what was taught to her by the Soviets.
Well, it was much better than anybody else's
Right.
around, but still, of course.
Okay, so you guys had to do a lot of deciphering.
No, all the papers were in from. Only thing which was an invitation was from Israel, which we need to do.
So the
rest was
invitation
all
from
in-
Israel came in English.
Honestly, I do not remember. I could see it in my mind, but I can't remember what language it was.
But it
in.
wasn't Russian.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was in English actually.
And you obviously don't have a copy of that because you
No.
said you sent it away. Okay.
No, I had to attach
Yeah,
it to my application.
course.
There's no ways to get any copies of anything.
You didn't have a Xerox machine in the house?
Well, we had a Xerox machine in our office in a company who was
there's
under lock.
there's an actual photocopier.
Yeah, which was under lock and key, and the only trusted person who was in charge of it was allowed to use it.
As it should be, because you never know what a
Yes.
photocopier could do in the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's no ways for me to get any copy of anything.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the date of departure?
Well, the date of departure, the date when you get an actual application, approval, and a visa, exit visa, was, I believe, April 30th,
79.
79. And the visa was in effect for 2 weeks.
And that's when we had to get out of there.
Yes.
Wow. So 2 weeks, that's it.
2 weeks, that's it. Because visa was in effect for from 30th of April until 15th of May. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So at that point, you were like, holy crap, it's on.
Well, by that point, we've been already pretty well ready, except some things which you could not do until you get with permit. Because we had to get some more money. I sold my tape recorder, I sold my tapes, Mom sold some of her clothes.
Camera?
Yes, I did sell a camera, but I had to buy a couple of new ones to sell them abroad. Because there was a list of things which was recommended to bring with you, so you could sell them to get some money for status.
Because the Soviets wouldn't allow you to bring hardly any money with you, or the currency wasn't going to be worth much once you left.
Well, the Russian currency practically was useless, and we didn't have much to begin with. And officially, we actually were allowed to take out $90 US dollars per person. So we had to go to the bank and exchange some of the Russian rubles for American currency, $90 US per person. So we had $270.
We left with 270 US dollars.
Correct.
Wow.
That was it.
Interesting.
Yes. But in these 2 weeks, I had to hire the shipping company, get the boxes done, get our luggage or whatever we wanted to ship out, get it all packed, get it all inspected.
That includes this rug that's beneath our feet at the moment, if I'm
Correct.
not mistaken.
Correct. It ended up in the same big boxes.
So was this like the biggest thing we took out of there, this rug?
One of the biggest things, we took some small, we had some kind of folding table, which we took with us. Other than that, as far as the furniture goes, we didn't have much. But dishes, books, some extra clothes, stuff like that. It ended up in one big wooden box, which actually, if you recall, in our basement,
like a crate.
yeah, big
Okay.
one.
Okay.
If you recall,
Basement and Woodbine?
basement in Woodbine, I built some shelves
I do.
for tools out of boards which actually came out of a box.
So part of the shelving you built in the basement there was the box that our stuff shipped from Russia in.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, it took about.
I wonder if that's still in that house in Woodbine. It depends on what the owners did to it, right?
Yes.
112 Wood Glen Close, in case
Correct.
anyone's keeping score. Okay, very interesting. When did you start letting the relatives know that it's a go, and what happened at that point? I'm assuming they wanted to see us before we left. What was
We
that?
did. We had a big going away party.
Before we got that note, that 2 week.
No, once we get it.
Once you got so what happened?
We practically had no furniture left,
Okay.
very little, so it was kind of a stand-up party. But,
Right, but who came?
my aunt, our friends, both. We had two couples which we stayed close with.
What about Yuri and Idia Sakovna? Wait, who did I just? I got my names mixed up. Yuri's wife,
Yeah, Maria Yakovlevna.
Maria Yakovlevna. I can't say it.
Okay.
Who's
No,
Idia Sakovna?
Idia Sakovna is Maze's mom.
Wow, holy smokes! How did that get into my head?
Don't ask me.
Wow,
Idia Sakovna, that's the name of Maze's mom.
Alex Mazes' grandfather, Ilya Mazes' mother.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. How did that get into my head? She died many years ago, right?
Not that many. Actually, yes. My guess would be about maybe 15
Yeah.
years ago, something
Good
like that.
grief. Well, that's a question for the analysts out there. Okay, so let's move on. So did your father, Yuri, come by
Yes.
and say goodbye?
Yes.
What about the Gomel contingent, mom's relatives?
I believe some of them, I'm not sure right now because it's kind of foggy in my head because my head was on something else at the time.
So,
but I know your mom's sister and her husband came over.
Because they lived, Lilia and Sasha,
Yeah.
they lived in St. Petersburg.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So what did they think of the whole thing? Like, did you tell them that you guys were going through the process?
Yes, we knew.
So what was their opinion? Because that, and I also recall in my memory, mom's family was not very supportive of the idea. They thought it was a bad idea.
I don't think so.
And I also recall someone coming to a train station to say goodbye to us.
Train station? We didn't go by train.
What am I thinking of? There was a train station, and I remember Rosa.
That must have been in Gomel.
Maybe. And I remember Rosa was saying, mom's mom, my grandma, was saying something to the effect of, you guys are making a mistake. Why don't you leave him with us and you guys go alone? Does any of this ring a bell?
No, that was something else. Where somebody else told the same thing to mom. I can't remember who it was, but I don't believe it was.
It wasn't family.
I don't believe so.
Okay, because that is a foggy memory in my brain that they thought us leaving the Soviet Union was a mistake, and that they should leave no one should take their child outside the Soviet Union. And
I think it may be something your mom told you about what somebody told her.
Okay. Again,
and that kind of set in your head.
Again, something that mom and I should clarify. Okay. So people were fairly supportive, it sounds like, at that point.
As far as I remember, yes. It was very few, even people at work, because I know a lot of horror stories from people who were living like myself, who went through hell at work.
After people found out.
After people found out, we created a whole bunch of public ostracism, official meetings where it was pronounced.
Publicly shaming these people
yes.
for wanting to leave
Yes.
the great Soviet Union.
Of course.
Okay. But your work and your coworkers were supportive?
I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I worked basically almost up to the last day.
But Mom didn't.
Mom didn't, because the school work was probably been thrown on. If
Right. She would have been, she was already giving up on the state, and how could she possibly be educating fine young communists of the future, the future, if she was leaving? Why, she might infect them with such ideas,
of course,
sort of thing. Okay,
contagious.
Yeah, okay, well, that makes sense.
She might have. She decided to leave herself, but I think it was a right idea at the time. She probably wouldn't be feeling well and wouldn't be treated well at school.
No, it's very interesting. Okay.
So
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so once we got the actual permit to leave, or the actual visa, I'm not sure if I still have a copy or not, but anyways, it was quite a few things we still need to do, and we managed to do it. Some of things didn't need to be done, but because it was on that list of things recommended, we tried to do them all. Like get a notarized copy of your diploma, your university diploma, your college diploma, stuff like that.
Are there personal legal documents like birth certificates, that sort of thing?
Technically we're not supposed to take them all out. You had to get a notarized copy. I managed to get some of them out.
Yeah, because, I've seen some of those documents.
Just because I did not have time to get notarized copy. So I took them with me in case, if it goes through, it goes through, because we went through quite a checkup at the exit.
So it was quite a rush for those 2 weeks after you got the green light, because everything took forever, because you had to probably go to specific buildings, wait in line for a long time, make appointments, blah, 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 and so it was just a mad rush for 2 weeks.
It was, and actually I even had to go to Moscow. Because some of the documents couldn't be notarized in St. Petersburg.
Unbelievable.
It had to be, and it actually did not get notarized because I had another adventure in Moscow, actually 2 adventures. Don't know if I ever told you about that.
No, tell me.
First of all, the place for me to stay in Moscow was with my uncle. It's my mom's brother. And he stayed with us in St. Petersburg many times, and I visited him in Moscow a couple of times. This time, when I came over, he actually kicked me out at middle of the night.
Because? Because
he was afraid that me being in contact with him would negatively affect his son, who was going through the final exams at university, or doing postgraduate stuff at university, medical.
Right. I remember you telling me this. I'm not sure if we talked about this on a podcast episode. I think you may have told me these stories before we decided to do some recordings. It might be one of the reasons I wanted to do some recordings. Yeah, I remember that. You got kicked out in the middle. Yeah, you had to go fend for yourself.
Well, I had to go fend for myself. Your mom's cousin was living in Moscow at the time. So I managed actually to get in touch with him, and I spent the night with him in his room. He didn't have much of a room, but I spent the night with him. He, as a matter of fact, was refusenik. If you know what I mean, he already applied and was refused to leave Soviet Union.
Why?
We don't need a reason why.
It just
happened to be somebody decided we did not like him too much, or whatever else reason.
He did all the steps, went through all the process, got the stuff, and they still said no.
Yes.
So it wasn't guaranteed by any stretch of the
imagination. No.
If you went through the steps, you still were at the whim of somebody.
Oh yeah, it was a dangerous thing to do actually, because if you if your application will be refused, the consequences could be you could lose your job, you could lose a lot of other things.
You're blacklisted.
Yeah, you're blacklisted because your mom's cousin in Moscow had to work in some kind of a warehouse, which was not something he was trained to do.
Do you remember his name?
Dmitry. He lives in Chicago now.
That was Dima.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's your uncle Dima. Or second uncle, whatever you call it.
Right. And then also, because he is the son of
Sima.
my great aunt,
Yes.
my grandma's sister.
Yes.
He's the son of my, so he's first cousins with Dina.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know enough about cousins and stuff to know what he
No,
is to me.
don't look at me.
So, and Misha, he has a brother, Misha.
Yes.
And he wound up in Israel?
No. Misha lives in Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, okay. So Misha is in Jackson and Dima is in Chicago.
Yeah. And Misha, actually, we met them in Italy. We didn't know where we live, and we kept it even closer to the west, so to speak.
We ran into them in Italy.
Yes.
On our way to
When
Canada.
Yeah.
But that's for a later episode.
Yes. Not just because of the relatives' names came up.
Right.
So I spent the night with Dima.
Okay.
And my cousin, the son of my uncle who kicked me out, also came over, being somewhat apologetic.
Came over to Dima's
Yes.
to apologize
next morning, yes.
He was the one who was studying for his college exams.
It wasn't college exam because I think he already had his diploma. He was actually a postgraduate study at the time.
Some advanced degree.
Which was...
Did he pass?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, he became a very famous surgeon in Moscow.
Do you remember their names?
Oh, yeah. His name Boris, last name Politsky, same as my mom.
Okay. That's the one who was studying.
Yes.
And what's the name of the dad who kicked you out?
Yevsey.
Yevsey?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact...
Politsky.
Politsky. And as a matter of fact, you met my cousin. They came to visit us here in Woodbine.
In Woodbine.
Yeah.
I do remember. And there's some pictures of you guys.
Yes.
Old pictures from Russia, black and whites.
Black and whites, and also pictures from his visit, from where visit here.
Yeah.
He came with his wife.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
So he came over, and that's what actually caused some issues eventually by my silence.
Sorry, what?
Well, when he came to visit in the morning with Dima's apartment
in Moscow.
To
see if you're okay.
Yeah, he wanted to see my visa and passport, whatnot, just to see what it looks like.
He wanted to see how the process worked.
Not the process, he wanted to see the piece of paper which says that I'm allowed to leave.
Why?
Curiosity.
He didn't believe it existed?
No, curiosity. Because
he was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I pull it out of my inside pocket in my jacket. He looked at it, whatnot. I put it back, but I put it back in his pocket.
What?
His jacket was on the back of a chair on top of mine.
What?
Yes. So instead of going to the ministries to go through the steps which I'm supposed to do, I spent the day trying to track him down to get my passport back.
So you wound up at the ministry. It was time
No, I didn't end up anyway because I didn't have time.
Before you were leaving to go somewhere, you realized you didn't have that thing in your pocket.
Yes.
And then you're like, what? Where the hell did I put it?
Yeah, and when I...
So you must have been shitting your pants, pardon my French.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Because first of all, I didn't just lost my passport, I lost my visa. Exit visa. Well, I didn't say lost it, I just didn't have it.
So how did you track everything down? You must have been panicking.
I was, but I managed to get hold of him.
Did you know he had it?
Well, I kind of figured it out because I knew there was a few jackets hanging on the back of a chair. So I kind of figured it out. I put it in the wrong pocket.
Wow. That's quite a mishap. So those are your Moscow adventures.
That's my Moscow.
A few days before we had to leave.
Oh, yeah. And I had to go back without accomplishing anything in Moscow I said to accomplish.
Oh, so you didn't get anything notarized or any of that stuff?
No, that's why I brought my diplomas with me. were actual original diplomas, which I
on exit day,
yes,
because you couldn't get the stuff notarized, so you just brought everything and hoped for the best.
yes, and it actually
Did you tell Mom, and how pissed off
Oh
was
yeah,
she?
of course.
How mad was she?
Well, it wasn't a matter of being mad. It just happened, and we.
How mad was she? Come on.
You can ask.
Wow.
I don't think she was. Honestly, we had just too many things in our mind to.
You're too busy to be mad. You just
Yes.
kind of let's move on.
We just had to go with the flow and make sure, and just hope it gonna end up with as intended.
Did I have any buddies that I needed to say goodbye to? Anything? I don't remember who I hung out with.
I don't think so.
Because I remember there were some kids in our building that I would play with on occasion in
Yeah,
grade
but
one.
that was on occasion. It's not like we've been friends with them.
Right.
No, I don't think you had anybody to say goodbye to
I remember
in any meaningful way.
Sure. I remember I had a buddy in grade one.
You probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lady living in our building or close to our building, which mom sometimes not get together, but run into each other, and that could be the person you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I
I remember which kid he was from the photo. He's like a blonde. He had a blonde buzz cut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from your
From the grade
school
one
photo.
From the grade one school photo when we're all in uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you managed to scramble. You managed to get to the departure day.
Yeah, we managed to get the departure day. We found out that we're gonna be flying out, not taking the train. So I had to go and get plane tickets for all of us.
How long? When did they tell you that? Like
That was all within those 2 weeks.
within those 2 weeks. So yeah.
Because until you get exit visa, you couldn't go to the next step. And the next step
Gotcha.
is to get your luggage out, to get your documents notarized and whatever else, to get your plane tickets, and basically be ready to move.
So we got all our stuff packed. We got it in a crate. Is the crate already gone at this point? Like
Well, the crate, I left it in a...
in the apartment or
No,
what?
no. It was an apartment. That crate was big enough not to fit through any door.
Oh, okay. So
There
where
was
the
a
crate?
facility where you go to order the crate,
Okay.
and they stayed
So
there.
some shipping facility.
Yes, they
what-
came over with that crate, so we loaded it up and we took it away.
And when they took it away, what did you think the chances of you seeing that stuff again was? Were you like, I'll never see any of that again? Or were you like,
No, I didn't think so. I thought it was kind of 50-50.
okay. All right. So we get, we're going to stop pretty soon because we're past an hour already. But I want to kind of leave it at the point where we're just about to leave the Soviet Union.
Yes.
So what else happened before we got to the airport?
Well, before we got to the airport, we actually spent the night with Lily and Sasha in their apartment, because we're pretty close to the airport, and getting there from center of the city where we lived may be problematic, and I think plane was in the morning.
Where did they live? Do you remember?
I remember the building, and we lived in one of those new developments. Well, it wasn't new anymore at that time. It was built around quite a bit, but it was
But not old St. Petersburg where we lived.
no.
Near
That was
Nevsky.
well, no. Where was more than halfway closer to the airport. Actually, more. It's
And where was
probably-
the airport compared to the center of the city?
The airport was way north.
Way north,
Yeah.
like north and west.
I don't know exactly. The maps were not really something you could see every day.
It wasn't Google Map.
No.
No. Okay.
I can look it up and let you know later.
No, that's fine. Okay,
So, yeah,
so we stayed with
lived
them.
pretty close. We stayed with them because he had a car to take us to the airport in the morning.
I remember he had a car. He was he was the only person we knew with a car, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah,
he
but
drove
that
us.
would be another story for another day.
Right. So he drove us.
He drove us to the airport in the morning, and that was it. We took our suitcases, whatever we had with us, and went through very strict custom control. It was up to the point where that had a shoe which went through X-ray machine and found out the heel of a shoe has empty space in it. So we twisted it off to see what's inside.
And they found?
Nada.
They found just air.
Yeah, we found just air, but we...
There was an unexplained cavity in the shoe.
Yes. Well, there was a cases where people actually were subjected to the body search, body cavity search, which lucky for us we didn't have to go through.
What was I like during this whole thing, during the exit? Because I definitely don't remember any of that.
I don't know. I can't really say what was the highlight. The highlight was actually when we were led through the door to get out to a plane.
Okay.
That was a highlight because we knew by when we knew we actually are leaving.
Because at that point you were like, they might still try to keep us here, but the second you got through all of that...
Yeah, we may still find something...
some reason to keep us.
Some reason to do something against what we want to do.
Right.
One of my big concerns was until the last minute, because when I was in the army, I had to sign the paper saying that I supposed to keep a secret for 7 years without talking about it with anybody.
Secret of where you
were
stationed?
Of a weapon I was exposed to, and the system I was exposed to.
Which you didn't know that much about anyway.
Well, I did just very well.
So you were concerned that they weren't going to let you out because you were in possession of some sort of state secret.
Well, by that time...
How many years had passed at that point? Pretty close to
I signed the
7.
paper in 66, so it expired by the book in 73.
Right.
But it was 79, and there could still be a reason.
Yeah. So you were worried about that. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. But they didn't care. No one mentioned it. And they let us through.
Yes, we did let us through. And that was it. That was, my dad did not come to the airport.
No?
No. He said, "Where you guys leaving? It's like I'm burying you."
Wow.
Not by choice, but because back then there's no even indication that you could stay in touch with people, or you could even go back to visit, or they could come out and visit you. That was still Iron Curtain stage.
So he felt that you were abandoning him in some ways, or abandoning...
Not abandoning him, but which probably was part of it, but he felt that he will never see us again, never have a chance to talk to us again. That was his reasoning.
Yeah. So I never saw him again.
No.
And Dina never saw him again, but you went back in mid-80s.
I went back to 87, in December of 87, but that...
Yeah, that's for a future episode as well.
We'll touch it some other time.
Okay. So, massive relief.
Massive
We
relief
got on the plane.
And massive apprehension as well, because we're going basically into unknown.
Right, and I believe we're heading to East Berlin on the plane.
Yes, the plane landed in East Berlin.
So that's what I remember, the
Yes.
East Berlin airport, but maybe that's where we'll pick it up next time.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yep. That works for me.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully it was everything you hoped for and more. And again, in case I hadn't mentioned it yet, Mom, we got to get on the microphones. All right. Thanks, everyone. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Shri Singa, Janri Singa, Jaya Janri Singa, Prahladesha Jaya Padma Mukta Padma Bringam, Shri Singa, Janri Singa, Jaya Janri Singa, Prahladesha Jaya Padma Mukta Padma Bringam. Oh yeah, oh yeah.